Strap on your VR headset because we're about to transport you into the captivating world of Ghosts of Tabor. Welcome to Tabor Radio. Hey, welcome to this episode of Tabor Radio. Today we're joined with somebody that came with us through recommendation of Spoon, actually. Today we're joined with Husky. He is the lead 3D artist for Ghosts of Tabor.
Which is freaking amazing.
Yeah, which I can only imagine is quite the challenge balancing both the PC VR version, then you have the Quest version. So Husky sounds like he's the man. Mm-hmm. So Husky, before I go crazy, hyping up the art style in Ghosts of Tabor and all that, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit more for the listeners and tell them exactly who you are and what you do for Ghosts of Tabor?
Hello. Yeah, of course. First of all, nice to meet you guys. And I'm the, as said before, lead 3D artist at Ghosts of Tabor. I was almost from the beginning. I still remember the time when the studio was working around like 9 or 10 peoples. I probably should say more about my background of working. Around 5-6 years, I'm working in the industry of video games content creation, and I'm working mostly as a 3D modeler, 3D artist, doing different type of stuff like weapons, characters, just a bit of environment stuff, but like I'm not really good at this. Well, different kind of 3D models. And most of that time I was working as a freelancer on a different project, like mods of DayZ, Arma, GTA 5. And at some point, like around a year, I don't remember already how much I'm working for Combat Waffle. How I basically get inside of the team, into the team. Scott was buying some like few models from me at Marketplace, and he asked to make me some changes at the model because they not perfectly fit into the Ghosts of Tabor project. I didn't know anything about that project. That it's existing, like. And at some point, Scott just wrote me like, "Hey, we have more job of that kind. Maybe you want to help us inside of Unreal." I just like finished at that moment around 3 or 4 months. I was after I finished job at the big outsourcing project, and I joined the Discord. It was like quick interview with Scott and Reynaldo and somebody else. I'm not remember correctly who else was there, and that's how I started at Combat Waffle.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you said you were in the industry for 5-6 years, but was that all flat screen gaming? Is this your first experience working in virtual reality, or had you done some virtual reality work before that?
Virtual reality, this is the first one. Completely flat screen gaming I was working on, and Ghosts of Tabor was it is my first VR experience.
So with I'm just scratch my other question, I guess. So with doing flat screen 3D modeling, is there really a big difference in doing it in VR, or is it essentially the same? Just because to me, I'm like envisioning like when you can do 360 views around a character and it's all arted out. So is there a difference really between the two platforms?
Technically, no difference. The way how things are working, like rendering, is pretty much same. You basically have the model and you have the texture on top of it and the shader, which like basically drawing everything on your screen. Is it flat screen or the 2 screens inside of the headset? Shader might be different, but technology is the same. If you're speaking about VR, the most, like, I would say important thing is the available resources for the headset itself. If you go into PC VR, you can have basically resources that your PC giving you. For standalone, it's a big difference. You basically have your smartphone strapped into your face, and that's the all resources you have. And it's very challenging to fit like very cool looking content in that kind of limited resources. It's always the balance. I would say it's like probably for my part of work, it's most challenging thing in terms of difference of VR and flat screen games.
See, then you're having to just basically from PC to flat screen, you're just having to continually scale down the level of detail on everything to make it actually resource friendly for the VR headset. Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah, that's some kind of...
Yeah, what's that whole process look like, I guess, where you have it, as the best quality on
possible.
PC VR,
Yeah.
and, how do you get that to run on a standalone headset, like you said, essentially smartphone processor on your face?
Well, basically, here's the thing. You have like, let's say for flat screen or PC VR, you have like very detailed model with textures that high resolution. For example, you have like a gun. In a flat screen game, your gun can have like 3 materials, and it allows you more details you can put on the textures, more details you can show, and also you have more geometry on your model. Like the shape of the model is more accurate to the real one. It makes in general your model looking better, much better. For VR, what you do is basically you cutting down everything. First you compress your texture resolution. Instead of 2K textures, you're using 512 textures, and like you're limited with your amount of materials you can use, like set of textures, and also you're cutting down drastically the poly count. Poly count is basically like a bricks that your geometric model consists of. It's like the less of them you have, the more smooth shape becomes. And it starts to hard translate the original shape of the model. And it's like a balance, always the balance between like how bad the game run and good it looks, and how smooth it run and looks not so cool.
Well,
Makes total sense.
And if you think of how Ghosts of Tabor looked on standalone VR when we first got it, to now, even things like the grass looks better, the water looks better. So it seems like how things look on the Quest might not be how they always look. It seems like you guys get really good at going back and improving textures as well. But yeah, that sounds like quite the balance. You want it to look as great as you can on both platforms, but it has to run good as well too. And how do you figure out if it's going to run good? Is there a way for you to tell just off of polygon count that it's going to work on the Quest? Or do you need to go, I think this is good, let's put it in the game and then, stress test it a bit?
Well, the first thing, like if you have some experience making some exact model, you already know, like this is too much for that project. Or you can put more. But you always want to make it like a bit better texture, resolution, a bit more geometry. You have to stop yourself. It's like you always, especially when you're doing content, like art content, you like inside of you always want to make something that will look as much good as you can. And it's pretty hard to stop yourself, like, and always remind you, like, we need to slow down a bit. And about your question, how to measure that? Test. It's just a test. Like first thing, as I said, like how good or not it will work, and it's always testing. As you said about grass and the environment, I'm actually not part of the environment stuff at Ghosts of Tabor at all. But what guys doing is basically constantly working during optimization work. We always making tests, measuring different parameters like draw calls, like frame time, a lot of parameters. And based on that, we deciding like we have to cut down something, right? Of course, it's always something that players less see, or like there is some things you're trying to do to keep the look of the game as good as it possible in this condition, but you have to cut something. It's basically no other ways.
Yeah, I imagine the balance of like, I got to stop, I got to scale back. I'm going too crazy. That must be pretty tough.
Be just painful from an artistic standpoint to have to take your artwork and then just slowly start scaling it back and knowing every thing that might look like an so are you self-taught, or did you go to school for?
Yes,
self-taught.
Yes, I'm self-taught. As a hobby, I start 3D modeling at the school time, but then I was like, if you remember, it was dial-up internet those times, and to find it was completely impossible to find a tutorial or something on YouTube and just like constantly like watch it live or something. It's just impossible. I found some tutorial in a forum. I don't remember even what forum that was. I make the prints like screenshots of the pages, save it, and then I was trying to reproduce everything from it was like a long time ago. And then I have a very big break, not doing any kind of 3D or something. And like around 8 years, I've started to come back slowly. And 5-6 years, I'm working in the industry.
So outside of computer artistry, were you always artistic growing up? Like you were one of those kids that could sketch anything at school? And no. It might be sounds surprisingly, but I completely cannot draw like the traditional draw on the paper. The best I can do, that kind of house with the sun at the corner. 3 years old. That's my level. That's my best drawing. I never was like, art driven person. Like I still don't have that kind of taste for the great pictures of very good things of art. Just for 3D, I don't know. For some reason, it just worked for me. That's so crazy.
What do you think it is about it that makes 3D modeling both achievable? Like, you can draw much more than a sun in a house.
With a little chimney. And
yeah. And what makes it fun? What makes it something that attracted you to it?
It's actually hard to say. I don't know. At some point of my working for, I would say, let's take that period when I was working for the industry. It wasn't my hobby. It starts to bring some money. At some point, it was just completely income driven. So working it was Arma 3 modification. I would probably won't be naming of that mod. It's still live. They start to pay me, like, first I've made few models for them just for free because I like the modification they were doing, and I was okay to help them just for free. And at some point, the head of that mod just contacted me and said, like, hey, if you want to, like, we can pay for you for that, but in this case, we will have some kind of control of you, what you're doing. Basically, they asked for, like, if they can give me feedback for my work, and they will pay for that. And after that, for some time, it was completely money driven. But right now, sorry, I just forget your question, and I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries. That happens quite a bit when you start to go off on something. You go, oh, what was it? I was just asking what attracted you to 3D artistry. Since, you're not too much of an artistic person in the outside realm.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding me. So I should say probably for today, it's just I like opportunity to bring something into the game, especially for Tabor, because this game is pretty successful, extremely, I would say. And I'm glad that I'm just part of this. It's kind of cool feeling that you're part of something successful, something big. And I guess this is the answer. I just very, very happy to be part of the Combat Waffle Studio. And that's the answer, I guess.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And you mentioned that you're not really doing the environments or anything. So is your primary focus on the character models and the guns and stuff like that?
Yes, you're right. For environments on the island, I guess you can find a few things made by me. Everything else made by environment guys. Most of them made by Sebastian. I recommend you guys to ask him about talking to visit you. He's a nice guy. He made basically everything on island. And he can tell a lot about this. This is interesting. About my stuff, everything you see in the game, if it's not environment, I would say 99% that's I've made it. We still have a lot of characters, guns, props. We still have in-game a lot of stuff that we're using from the marketplace, because when Tabor started, it was you cannot even imagine how fast things were changing, and we just need something to start the game, and it without a really big amount of 3D modelers, it's just impossible to make that amount of content at that time. So we had to use some marketplace assets, and some of them are still in game. Some guns are still in the games, but I have very big task. It's like constantly going from my first day to remaking every single guns in Tabor. Some of them are remade. If you look at the guns and it completely stick out from the all of them, but like worse, like it looking much worse. Make sure, be sure this one will be replaced sooner or later. I will replace it. And one thing also to mention about the guns, like as you may know, we are waiting for implementing gun mechanic system, which is repair, tuning, using aftermarket parts, and the guns. It's like some small leaks I will make. Some guns that are already remade, they already in the game. Those guns are from my side. They prepared to be used in that mechanic. So they already have different parts of the gun. So we're working at this direction, and it will be. I cannot say like how soon, but it will be.
So I think that's really good for people to know. It's not that you can just, scan a model, boom, it's good to go. No, you're preparing for the future updates. It sounds like you're coordinating with the other parts of the team to make sure, hey, you have the individual, 3D models of each piece to be able to be interchanged and repaired.
That's huge.
Exactly.
So do you want to kind of take us through what the process is like? So you need to make a new gun, how do you start? Do you draw it? Do you look up pictures? Do you have to coordinate with the programming team to figure out, what mechanics are going to be needed to be designed? How does that whole process look?
If we want to make some new guns that not in the game, so basically everything starts from the caliber. First of all, I'm taking the caliber of the gun and recreate the round of it, because it should be quite accurate in terms of shape and dimensions. In VR, you have to be very precise, and because, for example, if you have revolver, you can open up the cylinder, and if your rounds doesn't fit inside perfectly, it will, like, your brain will tell you there's something wrong. For example, if you have like 44 Magnum revolver and you're trying to put 22 long rifle rounds inside, you will see that something is very wrong here. So you start with the caliber, and then you find all the information about that gun you can find. Sometimes you're lucky and you can find the blueprints, the real blueprints, but this is pretty rare. And so most of the time you're working from the photo pictures, and that's it. Basically, you go in detail by detail, like the barrel with chamber, like bald carrier if it's there, and knowing size of one thing, you just following that line, bit parts by parts, and that's it basically.
So have you had access to any scaled, actual modeled weaponry that you've been able to get to work off of, or is it strictly by just doing research? And if you are fortunate, I mean, I imagine a blueprint's like the holy grail, because then it's there. But
yeah, it's depends on some exact guns. For example, some of the guns I can have access in real life, so I can measure and make those references that I need. But unfortunately, I don't have access to all kind of guns we have in Tabor. And for those who rest, you also sometimes you can find 3D scans, like photogrammetry of the gun. Some brands who making holsters, they sometimes publish the models, so in public access. Of course, you cannot use this scanned model. It sounds like pretty simple. You scan the model, you just drop it in the game. Unfortunately, it doesn't work this way. But you can always, using photogrammetry, you can always have very close size and dimensions of different parts, which is extremely important. It helps a lot, but most of the time it's photographs, pictures, that kind of stuff.
Wow, that's impressive work.
Mm-hmm.
That's really impressive, because there's even on the Quest 3 version, which is mainly what we play on, I mean, the detail on some of the guns is quite remarkable. So for that to be all photo based and everything, hats off to you guys. That's not easy work. And is
more
that
like an engineer than like a 3D engineer?
I'm engineer in my profession. I was studied for engineering, not okay. For firearms, but it's close.
No, it makes total sense, because I see the connection of like
how he breaks things down.
Yeah, it's like, well, the minute I heard blueprint, I was like, oh, okay, this is more of an engineering thing where engineer meets art, and then 3D modeling. So that's a little extra impressive in my book. Congratulations.
And is there one particular gun, or maybe even a couple, that stand out to you as one that you're just extremely proud of, like your highest piece of work, or are you quite equally proud of all of them?
I don't know. It's hard to say. Guess not. Just from top of my head, I don't know. No, I cannot say that someone exact or few just better than other one. It's for some time it was like one gun, you're making like bunch of other ones, and like it's constantly changing. Right now, I think all of them are at the same level.
And how much different little micro projects are you working on at once? Are you focused on just one piece of art at once, or are you doing, a whole shit ton out all at once?
Well, let's see. I have a huge task from my first day at Combat Waffle, remaking every gun we have. It was never paused. It's continue all the time. And also, right now I have some stuff for Grim to make, which is Spoon waiting for. And at the same time, I have one more thing for Ghosts of Tabor, which is related to the characters. I wouldn't say more. I think it's not public yet, but I can say I'm working for the characters right exactly at that moment. For the Ghost of Tabor, we will see something new soon, something interesting. And
I'll let people use their imagination there.
Yeah, it's you can guess what it is. I guess maybe Scott mentioned something at public or somebody else, but I'm not sure, so I will just stop at that point.
Yeah,
this is also one thing. And a few days ago, during that, Patty, who was also at your interview, Patty, He was need some quick model. It's just few hours of work. You just pause the big stuff you're doing and make it. It's like always a lot of micro tasks you can do at the same time.
Well, I'm glad to know that you're one of the people that's working with Spoon, because I know the number of people is pretty limited that's working on Grim. So knowing that you're part of that kind of puts a smile on my face. We've been fortunate enough to be able to be playtesting Grim, so we're having a freaking blast.
Yeah, one of under like 70 people to have access, or two of under 70 people. So I'm very grateful of that. But it's funny, when we interviewed Spoonfed on the Rough Talk VR podcast the other week, he had said the only thing he won't do is art. So it sounds like he has the right guy helping him out with that. And you're primarily focused on Ghosts of Tabor, right? With just a little sprinkle in of Grim.
Yes, exactly. I'm like 99% of my work, probably 90. Ghosts of Tabor for Grim, it's just some exact props most of the time. Because Spoon have his own team. He has own artists who are working for the Grim constantly 24/7. I don't know, maybe 7 days a week. Many players, like you already mentioned that many times, but like when Silent North and Grim was announced, a lot of players were thinking that team will be split apart. Some people will go there and there. Just want to mention this again. On that project, there is own people working there. They never worked at the Ghost of Tabor, beside of, like Elijah and Spoon, who was like leads of the project. But people working there, and they working as in new people. So don't be afraid. And it's okay.
It's definitely worth mentioning as much as possible that each team stays the teams. They're not splitting teams up. They're not, farming them out. I'm sure people, in a pinch or an emergency could help in a situation, but everybody's games will be dedicated to those games. So no, that's important to
continue to stress. I agree, because there'll always be people, I'm sure, a little worried about it, but no, each team remains its own. And man, I'm hyped for Grim, but Ghost of Tabor, that's always going to be.
In my head, it's never going to stop evolving in some way. So it's like hearing changes that are coming. And I mean, we have the kitty cat now and the bunkers to enjoy, which I'm not going to lie. I love my cat.
I was very impressed with the model for the cat. Were you involved in that? In the making of the 3D cat?
Yes, I was involved. I was, but the Xena, I didn't make that from scratch. The cat, but I was involved. Like
it's quite
some part of my work there. But the cat probably will be a bit updated.
Oh wow! Even for where it's at now, I mean,
I love it, dude.
It's got some interactions. It scratches. It goes and gets the food, drinks some water. Come on, the cat's freaking awesome.
Yeah, because it's a pet. It's cute. Like, and come on, it's good.
I was hyped up. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go pet it. Let's see if my hand just goes through. But no, there's some, like some rigid body on it.
I was able to flop the ear.
Yep. Yeah. Some good physics on it. And are you involved at all in like creating animations and stuff like that? Like when the cat digs, maybe not the cat specifically, but just the model itself?
Yeah. And animations, everything related to this point. I'm not working at this at all. I'm working just a bit. My part is when I'm doing characters. It's my job to make characters able to move, to use animation. Basically, every character have the skeleton side, which is like pretty obvious. And I'm also doing this rig and skinning, making characters able to move.
I love the balance that takes place between multiple departments to make a game. And it has to all come together as one in the end, but you've got artists, the programmers, the 3D modelers. It's actually pretty more mind-blowing than I think credit is really given to, that it's just not this easy process to lay shit out. It's like each department has to be able to work with the other departments, know what they're doing, what you're trying to do, and at the end of the day, it has to all work. It's quite an undertaking.
Yeah, and how much I guess, communication and co-working together is there between like the art and the programming to make sure everything is on the same vision?
A lot, I would say, but it's not like we sit in the same room and in the same channel at Discord. At Combat Waffle, we always in the Discord during the workday, and the cool thing, everyone can reach everyone almost at the same time, I think. And basically, what about my work? All communication is limited with start and finish, I would say, because my work is taking some time, and during that time, there is just no need for some, like some things to clarify how something should be done or not. I'm just getting a task like we need something that kind. It should be looking like this. It should be working this way or another, and then I just like when it's done, I'm just like speaking with the person from the devs who will be working on it. And it's pretty simple. At Combat Waffle, I should say one of the best things that like communication. There is absolutely no restriction, and like of course there is hierarchy and subordination, some kind. But like if you need to ask somebody about work, you don't need that. You just contact that person. That's it. Again, a lot of problems solved within a minute, which is great.
Well, you see the results in the end product. Combat Waffle seems like a very well-oiled machine.
Put out one of the absolute best games in VR in an unbelievably record time.
Mm-hmm.
75% quicker than most people could probably do it.
Mm-hmm. Consistent updates.
With that amount of content at the time. It's ridiculous. And the amount of future content, ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, when you had started, you hadn't even heard of Ghosts of Tabor, but since then, have you become an avid player, or are you just more interested in creating what you create?
I guess in the team, I'm the one who playing less than anyone else. I guess it's not because I'm don't like playing or playing VR. I'm not also playing flat screen at all. Like I already forget when I was playing. I was a huge player. I like games a lot in my life. I was big Tarkov player, code player. Like I'm kind of missing those times when you have to, when you can sit and play. But at some point, I was just like dig inside of the work so much. Even in my free time, I was doing something for the work because I just like the process of doing something and how it turns out. And it's like a slippery road. I'm just like end up where I am right now. I'm just want to play, but always have to do something. Have stuff to do.
So it seems, and I'll just say workaholic. It seems everybody at the studio, and it's not for like being forced to work. It's because everyone enjoys what they do. They don't want to not be doing it. But I look at some of the spoon work schedule is probably the most alarming as far as time, hours per day. But I'm not shocked at all that like you'd prefer to just be missing what you used to play or could be playing, but you've got work to do, and that's your focus, and you enjoy doing it. So it's proof in the product that we as the consumer get to enjoy.
And I guess sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go.
I was about to say, like, you're absolutely right. Like, and also you said not forced. I never heard or seen like at Combat Waffle that somebody was forced to do something. Like it's your job. You have to do it, and everybody just looks, I don't know, happy doing what they're doing. Of course, there is always something you have to do that you don't want. Like there will be always some task that you don't like, you don't really want to do exactly this, but it's just part of the work in general that you are happy with. So it's exactly right as you said. Like everybody just like what they're doing. And probably this is one of the reasons of the result we have right now.
I was going to joke, was that the UWU pack for you designing that?
Unfortunately. Yes. Of course, I'm joking. I have nothing against anime or that kind of content. It's just not mine. I just like, somebody don't like cars. Somebody don't like guns. Somebody don't like, I don't know, anything else. I just don't like anime. It's me. I'm not saying anything bad, but there was a lot of jokes and things about that because it was my first ever attempt to make something in that style. And how it turns out, the proper D, he was the one who was like laughing at me most of everyone. Like, how, in his opinion, it was so good he couldn't imagine I'm not. He was joking about like I'm secretly loving anime. And there was a lot of jokes about that, and yes, back by me also.
How did that idea come to be? Too, I love it because it doesn't match the art style of the game in such a drastic way. So it's funny when somebody goes on a killing spree with the backpack, with the guns and everything, but on the inverse, it also is a very big drastic art style change from the rest of the game, which I imagine you try to stay consistent with. How did that idea come to be? Whose doing was that?
If you mean the anime style in general, I don't know who idea that was. Generally, probably from Scott. I guess it started from some jokes, maybe, but I'm not sure about this exactly. At some point, Scott just told me, oh, "Hey, we're making you DLC." I was like, "God, that for real? Are you real right now?" Yeah, we need that gun, and that. And after that, like when we have those design, like it was me, I guess. Like, let's make also Alton helmet with this. Okay, let's go. And we made also Alton helmet with ears and something I don't remember already. But how it started from who, I don't remember. I just get the task, like, we're making in that style, we're making those guns. Okay, no problem. Let's go.
I would love to ask the whole team and nobody knows where it came from. It's like, whose idea was that?
Nobody ever greenlighted it. Find out it was actually your own idea. Yeah. You just didn't know it. Like nobody told you to do that.
That's my, and like if Wipe's coming, that's my loadout right there. I'm using, that's my gear.
What's crazy though is it looks good.
Yeah.
To me it doesn't fit in the true scope of like, you know, there's the comedic value to it, but artistically it looks freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's funny.
And when you know, all right, you're going to make a new character model or a new gun or anything, is there a consistent theme that you try to follow to match, you know, the Ghosts of Tabor art style? Or does it all kind of just naturally fall together because, well, it's guns in the end?
Well, both, I would say. Of course, when I'm making characters, let's take characters as example. When I'm making those, first of all, you're trying to find design of this. Searching different photo reference, pictures, whatever. It can be anything. Trying to find something that will fit. The things you have to fit is the lore. Maybe somebody didn't know, but Ghosts of Tabor, some have lore as a target. Basically, there is lore. Nobody really care. People just like love the gameplay and the game, but we have a lore in the game. And for example, if you have ghosts, they have their own story, who they are, and what kind of from following from that you can guess like what kind of equipment they were using. And same for the Volk. For example, if Volk was like more one of the side of the weapon gear, of the military gear, weapons and stuff, it will be kind of strange if they're like looking as the other fraction. Same for the scabs or anything. You have that idea, like this scab is basically the locals who take the gun at some point and go fight. So they will probably wear like just probably some cargo pants or jeans or jackets, like just not very military looking. And follow from that, you're making the character itself.
I mean, lore-wise, it's an interesting dynamic.
Mm-hmm. I always go with Ghost at the start of every wipe when you pick your character again.
Every wipe, I go the opposite.
Yeah, I think last time you were Volk.
Yep, this time I'm Ghost.
Yeah.
So.
I'm like, well, I would probably be NATO just based off of where I'm geographically located. So, I'll throw myself in that faction. But I love that Ghosts of Tabor has some lore, but it's not like too overly pushed in your face.
No, you
either.
have to kind of figure it out or ask.
Mm-hmm. It's just in the background.
Yeah.
But I'm a sucker for good lore, but again, I don't think that if it was overly pushed in your face, it would match the flow of the game either, where people want to just hop in and they want to go to it.
No, because I think what happens is people play the game and then they start asking questions because after
what's the difference between Ghost and Volk?
Yeah, like what's going on in this? Like what's making this happen? Who's the good guys? Who's not? Because depending on what side you choose, you're the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
And how much? I was gonna say how much of the character models and stuff left in like the market and stuff? How much of those are pre-made assets versus from scratch?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I correctly understand you. Can you please repeat?
Yep, no problem. In the marketplace, spots like that, how much of the character models and stuff like that are pre-made assets versus, built from scratch? I think of like the nurse lady where you buy the health stuff. She's got the nice tattoos on the arm. I go, well, that probably would be what a nurse would look like in this environment. That kind of fits the personality of nurses. Like how much of that is, assets versus stuff that you built from the ground up?
For the characters, the marketplace characters, all of them. I'm not sure about one. Don't remember his name, but like all of them are made in-house already.
Wow.
The
That's impressive.
CIA guy, I'm not sure if he's still in the game or not. Like the guy who was like looking like CIA agent with the blue shirt and like with the glasses. If this one from Marketplace, I'm not sure if he's still there.
And when you're designing the characters, like I comment, the tattoo on the nurse, do you kind of create like an idea of, well, this is what the person would look like, or is it just kind of
like if you have a personality?
Yeah,
for
do you
each
kind of
character?
like this is what I imagine the guy selling guns would act, and the music or the vibe he would have, or is it just kind of random to you?
For the nurse lady, to be honest, I don't remember what kind of tattoo she have, but I can say in a example of the collector, the boss. His tattoo is completely driven of like who he is, basically. This is former military who like kind of have some kind of problems with his head. Like he basically collecting souls. And at the start, his design was a bit different, but like was changed at the middle of the work. His tattoo is unique, I should say. It's and it. I was trying to make tattoos so some kind of reflect who he is, and like he was former military, and like maybe sounds stupid, but on his bag he have a tattoo on the armor plate, which go inside of the vest, basically like the ceramic of the steel plate, and he have a tattoo with the size of the plate, and it's small things. Like a lot of players will never notice a lot of small details on the characters, but all those details are placed for a reason, I would say. Sometimes
so you can kind of create some idea of how you imagine they would be in real life with it.
Yeah, it's some kind of this way.
It's gotta feel pretty cool to see your shit in a headset like that. That's really cool.
And how often are you hopping into the Discord and, reading player feedback? And, does that influence your design decisions at all? Or do you say, no, there's just, hey, 100K people throwing feedback is
a
quite
lot
a
of
bit.
ideas.
Yeah.
I guess you mean the public Ghosts of Tabor Discord.
Yeah.
I'm all constantly checking this, but I'm not reflecting myself there. I never post anything. I'm never interact with anyone because like I just don't know. I'm not. I don't know why, but I'm always checking Discord. Before the suggestion was closed, I was always checking the suggestions, and I should say posts there are very different. Some, of course, players like we're happy to hear what players want, but some of the suggestions are kind of strange, and you have to filter them. But a lot of them was really affecting our future changes, and I should say, like, players also affect the game a lot. We always trying to hear what people want from that game. Of course, if like somebody asking like, I want like machine gun with unlimited ammo and like top tier armor which like impossible to hit, come on, like it's have to be some kind of sense in this. But a lot of changes will implement, and I hope this practice will stay in the company.
I get not really putting yourself out there in the community Discord, because your DMs would be 24 hours a day. Here's would be a great idea. This would be a great idea. It's just not.
You're right.
I got banned.
Right.
How do I get unbanned? That'd be another one you'd get inundated with. So that makes sense.
And I guess something I should have asked as well. Are you working on the armor? You know, the way the armor looks?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. All the armors made by me.
And what's that process like? You know, are you looking at real life armor? Are you using your imagination? You know, do you have to coordinate with the other team to be like, hey, we need to have the head exposed with this one, the arm exposed with this?
Technically, the way of how the model made, exactly same as I described. You basically start from idea. Will it be armor plate? Like, it will be plate carrier, or it will be just a rig without any kind of armor. In that case, we can discuss it with the devs, like what kind of armor do we need or want to implement. Like, maybe it should be something light and cheap, but a lot of mole straps, so you cannot place a lot of pouches. Or it can be something like a tank, like collector using. It should be like collar, shoulders, like growing section, everything, legs, and it should be going from that. I'm preparing designs. Basically, all our armors are copying the real ones or made based on that design. And it's also like in rework phase. A lot of West will be remade at some point, updated in terms of saying updated. I'm not meaning they will change their protection properties. I'm meaning the visual of this design. It will be updated, looking more naturally, more good. I would say better. They will be looking better, because right now we're having some vests that I've made before my work at Combat Waffle. We're just using them because they are already done and we have something. So we will rework this at some point. And you asked about the process. Basically, it's the same. You take in the character and building that armor from the character's shape and proportions. Every vest in real life you're using as a inspiration or a reference. You know what kind of plate does it use? Like, is it like only front back plates, or it can be like cummerbunds? What kind of protection at the cummerbunds? And like going from that, you making the models, and after it's done, I'm giving this to devs, and they setting up all the properties, how it should be protecting you from the gunshots. That's it.
I feel like it must be so useful to have that huge asset background that you came from to be able to reference back to. And in situations where, hey, we don't have a vest yet, here's one that I made for, whatever this pack. Obviously, it's not ideal. It's building from the ground up, but I just feel like that must be useful to have that library to reference back to. And
yeah, it's It is.
Coming from that asset creation background, is this your first time doing formal, work as an employee for a game studio? Like, was it all freelance before, just uploading assets, or did you do some formal, I guess, studio work before too?
About studio, it was completely freelance. Only one studio I was working as an employee, but it's an outsourcing studio. But it's kind of very strange studio. We was told that after one more studio, we were working at the big projects. I'm still not completely sure, but it was at the first 2 years of my work. So it was money driven. Everybody was happy with result I'm producing. I was happy with money I was paid for that. So everything else, my work is freelance. As I said, mostly DayZ, Arma project, few projects on Unreal. Both of them were huge ambitions, but never released. And I'm sure they will not release. What else? And some just like freelance work, free work that I like. If I like the project, before that, I was completely cool to work for free at some projects if I like the project itself. Like it can be like DayZ. I was a big DayZ player. I like the atmosphere of that game. I was working on a lot of DayZ modes project, and it was okay to work for free, just like to improve your skills and like learn something new.
Oh, and look at where pretty much that path you took got you to where you are now, which is, I mean, working for one of the best studios in the VR industry. So and self-taught.
Well, like you said, the skills you gain in making those assets, even if it's free, you're learning how to do it. I'm sure a lot of those skills, helped you greatly in your current pursuit at Combat Waffle, even if you weren't necessarily paid for.
Well, it shows passion too. You're willing to work hard and give it away for free just because you enjoy it. You have the passion, and that's nothing you can teach or force.
And from the technical side, I guess, now that you're in a studio, what are the downsides, I guess, to using store assets versus, built from the ground up? And on the opposite, what are the pluses?
Pretty much simple. Marketplace assets, the way how they made is the way to fit most of the different kind of projects, and they trying to fit most, but not perfectly fit any. It's some kind of like general thing, and it's good to use marketplace asset as a placeholder, and this placeholder can sit inside of the game for a long time. It's saving your time extremely, because some small model you can see in the game, you seen this like 3 times during the 1 hour of playing, but the game, for example, need this, and it took a week to make it. You can easily find something on a marketplace and drop it as a placeholder. But as you said, like the downsides of this, optimization. If you build your game completely from the marketplace stuff, it can be looking very good. It can work pretty good on 4090. But on the average platform, it's like problem with my like free time projects when I'm doing something in Unreal quick, like one day scene. I'm like trying to collect something. It works greatly. I'm like, I have no problem. But I'm like turning on the second PC, which is like having worse GPU and CPU, and it's like laggy as hell. Like something wrong. Same thing with the marketplace assets. When you're making something inside of the team, you're already from scratch. You're making this to fit perfectly some exact projects. You already know what poly count you need, what kind of texture you can use, like how this model will be placed inside of the game. I mean, like how player, is it an interactable item that player can pick up and look from any side, right? Or it's something, so you have to work on every side of the model. Or it's something like just a brick laying somewhere at the street, and player only can see like two sides of this. You can easily cut everything else. This is small things from art optimization, like doing things in-house allows you to make it as good as possible for one exact project.
Well, I imagine for a game as vast as Ghosts of Tabor,
never stopping,
running on the Quest, I imagine that's a must to be fully optimized on every little asset.
I get to using
as a placeholder though.
Yeah,
100%
makes 1,000,000%. It's already worked out. Now you can just build it from the ground up, and then. But yeah, I can see the value in just building everything from ground up.
Well, especially for complex games like Ghosts of Tabor. I liked your joke about, it'll work good on a 4090, but what, 12
There's always balance.
4090?
Yeah, it's always balance. Like you can always find players who wants better graphic, as they said. Like we need better graphic, everything is blurry. Okay, it's technically zero problems to make game photorealistic. But like, will your PC like melt trying to play that? For us, it costs nothing to make game looking better. But you have to remember always, like, not everyone playing that game, you playing PC VR. There is a lot of players are limited with headset, and you just cannot say like, okay, we forget about Quest players, we just go strictly PC VR because we can make our game looks better. Of course, it's like that's not the decision, and we always can make the game looking better, but it's a balance always. You have to follow to make sure this game will run not only on your high-end PC or something. It also should work same good as on your friend PC, so you can play together and like, I don't know, lose the game together and stuff. Lose your gear and stuff.
And you don't necessarily need to say what they are because hey, learn tricks, but is there anything that you feel like you've gotten better with optimizing graphics for the Quest, or is it a never-ending fight?
Like,
is there any like little tips and tricks?
It's never ending, I think. I don't remember that at optimizing anything in the art. We in the team we had the situation when we said like, okay, this already works. I'm sorry, it's already run great. We're completely happy how it works. There is always something that can be optimized. It's just a matter of time. It's not just like we don't have any like magic button inside of Unreal. Like just press and optimize everything. I'm sorry, it's not existing. And so it can be very tricky process to find how you can make something working better and taking less resources, but still like not taking something from the player.
Well, there's also not like documentation how to do this. You guys are the first to really do it on this scale.
Book as you go
in Unreal, in VR, on standalone VR. It's not like people have been doing this for 10 years and there's YouTube tutorials and, like I said, documentation. You guys are writing the playbook as you do it too. So there's kind of that cutting edge element to it all as well. So huge props to everybody at the Combat Waffle team for their hard work, their innovation, and just their dedication to constantly making the game better and better.
Oh, the best it can be.
Yeah. So anything else you want to ask Husky here before we let him go?
No, I think it's just another proven example of if if you've got a passion for what you do. I mean, Husky's another self-taught individual for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. One of
Rare being an engineer and a computer artist, we'll say 3D modeler, but I mean, it just shows you can do it. So to me, it's inspirational. It's an inspirational story, and take advantage of the opportunities when they come. And look, I mean, working for the best studio in VR, what are you going to do?
And look at how he fell into it. It's another classic story of Combat Waffle sees results, sees results, and you know what? Bring him in, make him part of the team. You know, he needs some custom asset work from you, and then you know what? Next thing you know, just bring old Husky in.
Combat Waffle can write the book on how to put together a team and manage a team. And it was said earlier with the freedom, if there's a problem, it can be solved in minutes. Unlike other companies that could take days, weeks,
layers of communication,
the email chains and so it's like, and we've heard from Scott directly, it's an open door. Like if you have something to say, you can say it. There's not going to be recourse for saying no, or having the discussion with some passion. So I just think it's a great story. I haven't heard anyone from the studio yet say something that doesn't just, you can feel the passion for it.
Yeah, I love it. I always get excited for every one of these interviews because you hear the passion, the dedication from every person on the team. So, Husky, anything you want to say before we wrap this up? Anything you want to say to the listeners, the fans of Ghosts of Tabor?
I guess, first of all, thank you guys for asking me to join you. Give me a mic to do that. For the players, keep playing that game. Be sure it will be updated and updated and updated many times. It will be optimized. More content incoming. You cannot even imagine how much content I've already made. It will be implemented later. We already have a lot of stuff for the players. Just waiting its own hour. I should say thank you for all the players. Ghosts of Tabor. This game really happened because of the players, because we were happy to do something that big amount of the people are like. So I guess let's continue this. We will continue this work, trying to make Tabor better and better and better. Thank you,
man, I'm excited.
Everyone.
You got me excited now, hearing how much is coming. It's like,
yeah,
dude, since Ghosts of Tabor came out in early access, the rate of updates has been crazy, and it's not slowing down. If anything, it sounds like it's just
picking up steam.
Yeah. So I cannot wait to see what you have already finished and waiting to be implemented, and also what you're currently working on.
And when we see these new things, we'll know who's working firsthand on it. So that's even cooler.
Great stuff. So thank you so much for joining us today, Husky. To the listeners of the show, keep doing what you're doing. Keep enjoying Ghosts of Tabor. Keep shooting those little Timmies. And we'll check you out next month with another episode of Tabor Radio. Check you out later.
Thank you, guys.